Hello friends and welcome back to my channel, Diary of Fiction. So today we're starting a little weekend vlog, a little weekend in my life. We have no plans whatsoever, so we're just gonna see where it takes us. But today I want to go to a cafe. I want to have like a little productive session and take my book with me, order a matcha and just sit there and read for a little bit. So that's the plan for today, which is Thursday. I thought it was the perfect weather, honestly, to read a couple of dark academia books that have been on my full TBR and just like physical TBR in general for a while now, and I just want to read them and I guess go through the experience of reading them with you all. I love vlogging and I love sharing my reactions to books. So the two books that I have here that I've recently started, and I don't know why I started both of these books at the same time because they're both in the same genre, so I'm a little bit worried that I'm gonna get them confused in my head, but I think they're opposites in terms of like the tone of each of the novels. One of them is a little bit more serious, more adult and mature and dark, whereas the other one is a little bit more young adult, light, I would say. First off, I have If We Were Villains by Emil Rio. This is a dark academia book that I hold recently and I got recently. I'm so excited to continue reading this. I'm on page 68 and I'm using this this sticky tabs because I always use these for like dark academia books. It's what I've noticed. I use this ones as well for Vicious by V.E. Schwab. It's just the ones that out of the packet I think match the vibe the best. I started reading this. I'm falling in love with the writing. The way the author introduces the characters and describes the setting is so October, even though we're in November, but I love it very much. Yeah, I'm just intrigued to find out what's going to happen because it's definitely similar to Vicious again. It's very similar in the sense that you start in the aftermath of it all. It opens up with one of the characters being interrogated and ready to tell the story of what happened, and then you dive into what actually happened. I really like that because it just reminds me of like, you know, when like back then they used to release episodes on certain shows and they would be like, you would see them like, I don't know, something really bad happening to them, and then you would see like 12 hours earlier, so it would like lead up to that throughout the episode. And also this reminded me, like when I started reading this, or specifically the scene that I'm in that takes place in Halloween, reminds me of the first episode of How to Get Away with Murder for some reason. But yeah, so this is the first book and I don't know if I'm gonna be reading them at the same time or if I'm gonna choose to focus on one, finish one, and then read the other one. If so, I don't know. But Legendborn by Tracy Deonn is the other book that I have. So this is the first book in a trilogy, I believe. It's a young adult trilogy or series. I'll correct myself here just in case, but it is sort of like an urban fantasy with some dark academia aspects. There's like demon hunting, but there's also secret societies, and there's a magic system inspired by King Arthur. It just sounds like such a great time. And when I started reading this, I felt like it was just providing me with the amount of escapism that I was looking for and just like comfort. The writing style just allows for like main characters to feel real and like they're real people and they're experiencing real human emotions, because usually I feel like in other young adult books that I've read, for example in The Cruel Prince, where if you've read the first chapter you know what happens and you feel like there's some emotions and feelings that we didn't get to explore in the book as much, whereas in this book you really dive into those emotions and feelings of grief that the main character is experiencing, allowing you to feel a lot more connected to her. And I just really love that. I feel like this book is very comforting and just like great company. So I'm excited to continue reading this. I just now need to decide which one out of these two I'm gonna be taking with me to the cafe, because I want to be nice to my back and I don't want to take both of these and just have my backpack be really heavy. So that's the sound of my fridge, if you heard that. I need to decide which one I'm gonna take, but I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna somehow decide which one I'm gonna take because I'm very indecisive about it right now, and you'll see once we get to the cafe which one I eventually took with me. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Hello friends, happy Friday. So I ended up staying the entire day at the cafe. I wanted to read for a little bit, to be honest, but I was so locked in into what I was working on that I lost track of time. It got darker and then I ended up getting home quite late. And I did read though before going to sleep, which is my favorite thing to do. I love reading before going to bed. It just relaxes me and transports me into another world before going to sleep. And I've decided that I'm gonna focus on reading If We Were Villains by Emma Rio first, and then I'll probably read Legendborn. So that means that I'm not quite sure if we're gonna be reading Legendborn in the rest of this vlog. I might just be focusing on this book first. I am a little bit more of it's not necessarily like a slow reader. I just don't like to rush through books. I feel like we need to romanticize that a lot more than just like speeding through books and getting books read. You know, I just like to take my time with them. So I think we're just gonna be reading this book maybe and just really immersing ourselves into this story. So far my reading update is that I'm on page 114. That's scene 7 in Act 2. I have been thoroughly enjoying this book. I have been thoroughly enjoying the writing style, the characters. They're like morally great characters. Like, we're getting to know them. They're so complex. The relationships that they have with one another, they just have a dark, mysterious edge to all of them that makes you question everything about them. Like, you don't really know who to trust. You're just looking at I'm looking at all of them, like analyzing every single thing that it's on the page. Like, I am trying to figure out if there's some foreshadowing, because I have no idea like where this story is taking us. That's the thing. And I think honestly that is the best way to go. In fact, like, I fear saying too much because I don't want you to know too much. Like, I feel like this is a book that you just need to read. Just know that there's some sort of mystery going on. Something happens with this cast of characters who are Shakespearean actors. Just know that. That's all I would say. The writing style, like, let me read you literally the first page. It's the second paragraph and it says, "Enter the players. There were 7 of us then, 7 bright young things with wide precious futures ahead of us, though we saw no further than the books in front of our faces. We were always surrounded by books and words and poetry. All the fierce passions of the world bound in leather and vellum. I blame this in part for what happened." When I read this, I was like, this book has potential to become one of my new favorite books. Is that a surprise to anybody? I don't think so, because I have been really enjoying reading dark academia books lately. And honestly, what I've been loving is like, they're all quite different from one another. I feel like this one seems a little bit more of what I would imagine like a dark academia book feels like. Also, I had a comment from Brie telling me that this obviously came before like dark academia was more known as a genre than it is now. So I find that really interesting as well. But yeah, this book just has me at the edge of my seat because there's so much tension and I'm just being very suspicious about everybody. I can't tell you much because I don't want to ruin this book for you, but just know that I'm really enjoying it. There's some characters that I'm really caring about and then others that I'm like, but then I feel like there's gonna be some sort of like plot twist. I don't know. I don't want to say anything else, but I'll just keep reading and I will continue to update you. So I will see you then. Hello friends, happy Sunday. I am terrible at vlogging, especially on a weekend. That's what I realized, especially on a weekend where we're mostly just resting. It's like hard to pull up the camera when I don't really feel like doing very much. Also, please ignore the shower in the background. We'll just pretend it's like rain and like the ambience going on, you know. It is currently 9:01 a.m. I actually woke up really early this morning because I couldn't go back to sleep. Like I woke up early and my brain was just on and I just couldn't turn it off afterwards. I don't know what's going on with my sleeping schedule lately, but I have been reading If We Were Villains by Emma Rio, and I wanted to update you because I was reading on my Kindle and I was checking to see which chapter I'm in, and I'm in scene 13. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and I only got Kindle Unlimited quite recently. And I was so happy to see this on Kindle Unlimited, but it just makes it easier sometimes whenever I want to read when I'm about to go to sleep because, oh my gosh, the sun is coming up. This is how you can tell that I'm not an early bird. Like, I am one of those people who on weekends just hibernates and just sleeps all day basically. But I want to get better at that. Like, I just want to fix my sleeping schedule basically and like start waking up earlier and take advantage of my morning, honestly, because when I wake up early it's like, wow, like the day is so pretty. Only sometimes if I've had a good night's sleep. If I wake up early when I went to sleep late, and I think that's the main issue. Anyway, but what was I saying? Okay, yes, I love reading on my Kindle before going to sleep because it just makes it easier on my eyes. Like I can turn off the lights and it allows for me to actually fall asleep, whereas if I have the lights turned on, it'll take longer for me to fall asleep. Whereas if I'm reading on this, like as soon as my eyes start getting tired, I just put it aside and I go to sleep. Although this book is not very comforting, I would say, for going to sleep, but I'm on scene 13. Okay, let's see where that is. I actually read this morning since I woke up early and I couldn't go back to sleep. I was like, you know what, let me just pull out my book and read. But my Kindle is now at 5%. Usually the battery lasts really long, but it's lasted me for forever, so I finally need to charge it. So I'm here on page 217, and I wanted to just, I guess, talk a little bit more about the book and be a little bit more specific about what it's about, because I feel like my first update was kind of just me rambling and saying that I was really enjoying the writing style, but actually getting into what it's about in a vague manner so that you don't have too much information and you don't get spoiled. You just get the opportunity to still just read it without knowing too much. So basically in this book there are two timelines. One is the present timeline and one is 10 years ago. So I feel like that is very similar to Vicious by V. Schwab. That's why I kept saying that. And in the present, our main character Oliver is being released from prison and he is ready to tell the truth about what happened 10 years ago. 10 years ago he was attending this university studying to be a Shakespearean actor alongside a group of friends, and all of them get involved in this situation that happens, and it's sort of you trying to uncover what exactly happened, and also for me, how did Oliver end up in this situation. It's definitely very much just that. There's not much going on besides trying to solve what happened, except for like the relationships between characters, which I am enjoying quite a lot. I really love how natural the dialogue between characters feels, how they're being constructed, and how you really get to know each of them. Again, not really, like there's something that they're not saying to you, and so you are basically as clueless as our main character. I also really love that the author actually includes like Shakespearean dialogue in the story, so it's not actually taken from actual Shakespeare plays, it's fictionalized in a way that really creates an immersive experience. And because they're Shakespearean actors, it almost kind of becomes confusing whether they're really acting or they're sort of becoming or being part of a Shakespeare play themselves. And I think that's like the cool twist about it because of the way that it is written, and I think that is really special. Also, the setting, very much October, November timeline. Like if you're looking to read this book, I would say read it right now because it's perfectly matching the season that we're in. You can really envision the school, because usually I feel like for other Dark Academia books, I feel like they've included like maps of the school. And Ninth House I think has a map, but like for this one you don't have a map, but I have a picture of what it looks like in my head. I feel like you definitely have to be in a certain specific mood to read this because it is a story about like pretentious characters. I find comfort in the way that the setting is described, but I don't find as much comfort in the characters. There's one character that I love and I want to protect, but I also have a theory in mind, and if it's true, my heart's gonna be broken. There's like a lot of foreshadowing happening too, but I'm just trying to figure out myself what's going to happen and see if I actually get it right. And I have a theory, but I'm scared. scared. I'm scared. So I will let you know if that's actually what ends up happening or not. If it is, honestly, I might absolutely love this book. I am really enjoying it, but I might end up really loving it. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those books that the ending will kind of solidify whether or not I absolutely love it or not, because it's all about like the mystery, and I expect that to be resolved in a very clever way. So yeah, I'm gonna do my makeup and I think in a couple hours hopefully we're gonna go to a cafe. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I'll take you along. I'm just gonna eat some breakfast because I'm really hungry, and yeah. Hello friends, so good morning. It is Monday now. My voice. I haven't spoken all day. So yesterday I went to the mall and I was there for a really long time. I was waiting for my partner to pick me up, and because of that, like, I started shopping. It's like nobody's here to stop me. Okay, so I went into a store, got a few clothes, because honestly I've been needing new clothes. I don't have any like sort of like winter fall clothes, and it made me really happy. I honestly wanted to treat myself to some, so here's your shine to do that as well, because personally I feel like I find it so much easier to buy myself books than buy myself clothes. But yeah, anyway, I had such a fun day. It was like a little self-care day. Families were there, the holiday spirit was there, there was Christmas music while I was shopping as well, so it was just like really fun and really wholesome. So yes, I was reading If We Were Villains by Emma Rio. I sat at the bookstore and read for a little bit, and I am at a point where I have been just very addicted to the book. So I found it really hard to stop reading. Like, I was like, okay, one more chapter, and eventually that got me all the way to Act 4, which I'm not sure if this is the last act. Like, it's sort of like a play. In terms of structure, it definitely reminds me of One for My Enemy, which also kind of resembles a play. So you always have like an act and then a prologue and then and then the scenes. That also contributes to the feeling of it being related to the Shakespeare world. I feel like this book has a little bit of a slow build-up, and it feels slow at times, maybe because the only major plot is figuring out exactly what happened, and it does take its time building the tension up until that point where you figure out what happened. Even where I'm at, I still have questions and things that haven't been answered yet that I'm a little terrified to know the answers to. I'm expecting a big reveal at the end. If that doesn't happen, I don't know, but I feel like it's one of those books that the ending will determine whether I end up really absolutely loving it and it becomes like one of my absolute favorites. It's one of those books where the ending just really matters, you know, because it's all building up to that point in time where we get finally the version of what actually happened. And I'm just having a great time. I feel like I'm enjoying it a lot more. I was really enjoying it in the beginning, But like I said, that it would slow down at a couple of points and I would just get really desperate. I feel like I just get really desperate to find out what's going to happen. I just have some theories. We'll see how this book ends. It might surprise me and be a lot better. But yes, I will update you once I'm finishing this book because I'm pretty close to the ending. That is page 247. So I'm pretty close to finishing this. I have to head out right now and I'm gonna have like a little commute time. So I'm gonna be reading on my way there. Probably when I come back, I will most likely be really close to finishing this and then we'll have like my little reaction to it. But that will be in a few hours, so like afternoon. Honestly, it's really hard because now it gets darker earlier. So like around 5 it gets dark already. And honestly, when it's dark, I'd like shut down like but I will see you in just a few seconds to finish If We Were Villains. I'm so excited. Hello friends, so I've gathered my thoughts and just kind of had a moment of trying to figure out how is it that I feel about If We Were Villains, which I just finished. And okay, I feel like this book in the very beginning, it had me hooked. I love the writing style. It was set up to be probably a new favorite book, but then so many things started happening. So one thing that happened was that I felt like the book was starting to drag a little bit. It felt very surface level by the end of it. So in the beginning, I had mentioned how I felt like a lot of the characters were very real, and that's because when we're introduced to them the first time around, it does genuinely feel like this group of friends. You get to see them interact with each other in a way that felt very realistic, and I could see them interacting, having that like sort of like little banter with each other really clearly. But towards the end of it, I feel like there were a lot of things that were touched on about these characters that I wish we would have explored a lot more. Specifically some characters that I still have lots of questions about, and like I feel like I still don't know them by the end of the book. I know how they were involved in what happened in the story. I know a little bit about their relationship with the main character, but I ultimately don't know too much about them. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, it also sort of reminds me of how I felt when I read Normal People by Sally Rooney a long time ago in terms of the characters. But since I can't remember that book that much, I just remember this feeling, the same feeling of not really being able to fully connect with the characters. But anyway, I'm not gonna really talk about that because I don't fully remember that book, but I'm just like being reminded of how I felt when I was reading this book. But in terms of this book, it almost felt like tragedies were occurring, but there wasn't much depth to them. They were just happening to happen. I wish there was some sort of like meaningful, or maybe I'm not really understanding the meaning behind them. There was opportunity to explore these characters even further. Like I'm thinking maybe what if this book would have been like different multiple perspectives, because you're mainly following just Oliver's perspective, and like because these characters are meant to be very like self-centered, you don't really get to learn from the others just as much as the main character cares to know, basically. And even then, the relationships between Oliver and some other characters ended up feeling a little bit flat. Like I understood that all of these characters were trying to cope with whatever was happening and trying to process things in their own ways, and that's sort of what the author tried to get into. But yeah, I just feel like I wish we just would have had more character development by the end of it. Really quickly, I wanted to explain that better, but I feel like every single character kind of accomplishes what it is. Literally the first sentence of the book says enter 7 players, and I feel like each of them feels very much like character, like not like stereotypical character, but they all fit into this one box of this is what they are. And I think just leaving them at that is what make them feel not as three-dimensional, and because of that is why I wasn't able to connect with them, because I wish we would have broken that stereotype or like that box that they were placed in so that we could actually go more in depth and get to know them better. Specifically, with the character of Meredith. That's a character that I wish we would have been able to see like her reality and another side of her that went beyond how she was described and how she was perceived. I think I would have found that a lot more interesting, and like it would have added a lot more to the story and her character. The ending also I was able to predict. I did say earlier on that I had a theory on how this book would end, and if it happened it was gonna break my heart, and it did happen, except it didn't quite. It hurt, yes it did. And it was quite surprising, and it still was like, ugh. But then, I don't know, I feel like I still felt like I needed more. Like I wasn't as satisfied with that ending. There was foreshadowing like towards the end of it that obviously this is not a happy story. I would even also search content warnings for this because it's not a happy story. It's very dark and almost, it feels very shallow in a way. So I think that's why I'm not able to fully connect with it. But I think that's just what it is. Like I think maybe it's not maybe for me. But I just wish I would have had more at the end of it, because it was all building up to this last moment where we were supposed to be blown away. And not only did I predict it, but it was also kind of underwhelming. So overall, I think this is it's a really great story, really interesting story, unlike anything that I've read before. I love the mystery aspect of it. I love the writing style. I love the setting. I love the fact that we're in this school and we get to see them through the seasons like Halloween, Christmas. It does really feel like they're students, and you know, you get into how they're so obsessed with like Shakespeare plays that they almost like aren't able to tell the difference between reality and Shakespeare plays, which adds on to the fact that this whole book feels like a big tragedy. So that part was really interesting. I love again like that they would speak in Shakespearean dialogue with each other as well. But yeah, there was like some parts missing that I wish we would have gotten a lot more depth into. But overall, I would still recommend this book. Again, content warnings for this book because there are some scenes that can get a little like violent or dark, so just definitely look those up. Yeah, I think it's a good book. It's just not like my all-time favorite book, but it's still a good enjoyable read. Like I would still really recommend it. I just am right now, since I just finishing processing the fact that I am a little disappointed about it. And I think that's why I sound very negative as well, but it is a good story. It is well written. I am very glad that I read it. Oh my gosh, and I got this book at the Strand, and actually they mentioned the Strand in this book. But yeah, I just love the way that the characters had their own like different lives, but again, I wanted more from them. Like I feel like this book would have been so amazing if we could have seen their perspectives as well, just their own little worlds. Like it would have added so much to it, and it wouldn't have felt like a little bit like it was dragging and just maybe slightly as boring, maybe because you're just so into our main character's mind that I'm like, okay, like I want to learn more from the other characters too. I would recommend it. I think it was a good book. Not my all-time favorite book, but I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it, and I will be thinking about this, specifically two characters. Yeah, two characters. Anyway, If We Were Villains by Emma Rio. I hope that you enjoyed this little reading vlog that was supposed to be sort of like a weekend vlog turned into more of just a vlog, and I kind of want to just experiment a little bit more with that. Like it doesn't have to be strictly a week or strictly a weekend. Just a reading vlog and just take you along with me while we read together and just have some self-care days together. So hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you later. I will be doing a wrap-up eventually with all the books that I'm reading in the fall. It will be coming soon. I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent with posting, so hopefully I can get more videos and get them a little bit to be a little bit more consistent. It's just been a rough couple of weeks, but hopefully we can get more videos posted soon, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Oh my god, that looks so good. I love that.